Welcome everybody. I'm very pleased to be here today with staff and students from the Northern Lights Community School. As you know, there are lots of options for education these days, from public schools to post-secondary enrollment to computer schools. But one relatively new in our area to me, and so I'm very happy they're here today, is the Northern Lights Community School. So I don't want to goof up your names, so why don't you just tell me who you are and kind of your role at the school?
I'm Nick Pretasky, and I'm the director.
And what is the director exactly?
In more of a traditional school, you would call me the principal. But the director, I feel I have much more of a hands-on role with students, outside my office ideally, and I get a hands-on opportunity to work with our staff and kind of help work with students and staff to keep the direction of the school going in the right way.
Okay, and so you're the director, and Nick, what's your background just a little bit?
My background is I went to out of high school. I went into the education realm, got an elementary education license, and then went back to school for a special education license before I went to Australia to actually learn how to teach in the outdoors and become a wilderness guide. And then that took me on a path to work with young people, troubled youth in the world of wilderness education. And then somewhere in that path, it brought me back to wanting to be in schools, but working in schools that have a little bit more of a non-traditional field and focus more on the unique characteristics of young people, and be able to center a school around the people that go there, rather than teach the people that go there about the school. So.
Interesting. Okay, and so Director Nick, and?
I'm Suzanne Dustrude Starr, and I am called an advisor at our school. And I'm a certified teacher, and my role in this school is we have 5 advisors, 5 advisories. So we have our school is 6th through 12th. We have a middle school advisory and an advisor for that group, and then there are 4 high school advisories that are 9th through 12th. So I have 20 students in my room along with a paraprofessional, and some of them are here, and we're called advisors because we also teach regular classes, but we do a lot of advising of our students because at our school, the students drive their education. They know what the core areas are that any student in the state of Minnesota has to do to graduate from high school, but they have the opportunity to design projects to meet those standards. And my role is to make sure that there is a solid academic base and that they're actually matching up with what the state requires, so we're all on the same page. But there's a lot of advising that I do. Wouldn't you agree, Kate?
Yeah, I'd have to say so. She's also always very cheerful in the morning.
And she has such a long drive.
Oh, yeah.
I'm a morning person. Yeah.
Very much.
Yeah. And I've taught, well, you know, I've taught for Hibbing Community College and Mesabi Range College and Lake Superior College and over at Itasca. Most of my career has been in the college, community college teaching, which I've loved. But before I became a community college teacher, I was a high school teacher. And I also taught in a school kind of similar to ours that had a non-traditional kind of focus in the Twin Cities for a short while. And I really love how creative we can be and how creative the kids can be. And it's just the kind of thing that's very difficult to do in a really large traditional school. Some of the things that I might have wanted to do, I couldn't do just because of the size and the kind of regimenting that has to happen in order to process a lot of students through from start to finish. To
the bell ringing. And I know you also have had experience in the Waldorf school.
Yes.
And lots of different, so your staff, your advisors, very well-rounded in so many different areas, but basically just really concerned about the students and help directing them individually.
Individually, and then also each advisor teaches a seminar, and we have Our school year is divided up into blocks. We have 7 blocks, and a couple of them are short, so we sometimes combine them. So they're like 6, 7-week blocks, during which each advisor teaches a seminar. For instance, right now I am teaching a seminar that I called Freakonomics. It's a very fun way to learn economics, and it's basically all of the econ standards that are required by the state of Minnesota. And actually, Alli is in my class as Kate is, and they're both right now working on an entrepreneurial project where they're going to sell something to our student body, and they're going through applying for a loan and
So it's real hands-on.
very hands-on,
Yeah.
very hands-on. Yep. So advisors also teach, and I also teach geometry. We all teach math. All the advisors teach math, and the students have math every single day. And then they also go to a regular classic kind of a class where there's a teacher in charge of it, and then and usually that's project-based also. But the rest of their time is divided up into other chunks of like we have a rec. At the end of the day, we have a period that's called rec, where we do FIAD. We might do yoga. I've done guided visualization, kinds of stress reduction things. Those kinds of things are taught to students. If they're interested, and they get to choose.
Okay.
And
Just lots of options. Now, before we started, Kate, you said you've been there the longest of any of these people. So tell us a little bit about your background and what led you to Northern Lights.
Well, I started 6 years ago, coming from my old school. At my old school, I had done 2 years of kindergarten, so I did about almost 7 years there. And through that whole time, I was mentally bullied into silence. I didn't have one friend the whole time I was there.
In your old school.
Yeah, in my old school.
Okay, mentally bullied.
Mentally bullied into silence.
And so you were not enjoying it at all.
No.
And how about academically? Were you thriving or?
I got A's and B's in science and art, but math, they really just didn't teach you the assignment. They'd give you a 30-minute lecture, then hand you an assignment and say, do it. And since there was so many students in the advisory, the class, they had no time to teach you what the assignment was about, and they had no time to answer your questions. So by my 6th year, I'd get my assignment, I'd get up to go when the bell rang, and I'd throw it in the garbage because I couldn't do it.
Okay, so it was very frustrating for you. Okay, so how did you learn about this school?
After my 5th year there, during that summer, I had a leg accident. I was in a major water tubing accident, and I went back to Greenway that following year, and I only did about a full week there. I was enrolled for 2 weeks, but I only went about a week because the bullying just got so major. Being on crutches and having this huge cast on your leg is not enjoying.
Very hurtful. And so you found out about this school. And so what difference has it made to you? Is there bullying?
No. I must say first, though, my first day at Warba, I walked into the school, and I have to say about 5 minutes into that meeting, I had already made one friend. And that's one more than my whole 7 years at my past school.
So you felt like it's real welcoming and
Oh,
people
yeah,
are
it was-
non-judgmental.
Yes.
And,
But it was so chaotic. I'd never experienced something like that. I was terrified. There were ping pong tables in the hallway.
okay,
walked
it's a
in,
different
I'm like,
structure.
Oh my
huh?
goodness, what's going on? I was terrified.
Oh, well, we'll come back to you, but that's very interesting. And I bet you're not terrified anymore.
No, I've become very strong and independent.
And you attribute a lot of that to your school?
Yes, I do.
Okay, and to the friends you've made and the
Oh yeah.
people you...
I have to say, probably every student that goes to our school is my friend.
That's really great. So it kind of feels more like a family in certain ways
yeah.
than a family and a school.
It's definitely like
working
one big
together.
family.
Wonderful. Okay, Peter, what led you there?
I had a friend who went there, and at my old school, Nashwauk High, I just couldn't learn. I had flunked out of a few classes, well, barely passed, but still. And I'm like, I can't learn in this school, there's too many people, and I just don't understand how they're teaching this and what's going on, because I'm very easily distracted. And he said, my friend said I should come to this school because there's a lot smaller classes, and the teachers make it nearly impossible for you to fail their classes. So I'm like, I'll give it a shot, I'll try it out. But once I got there, I found out like everyone was friendly, which I loved, and the teachers would really help you with whatever you needed help with. I'm like, I'm going to stay in this school, I like it here.
Good. And how about, you had mentioned that in your former school you were kind of toward the bottom flunking things.
Mm-hmm.
How do you feel now as far as your success at Northern Lights?
I'm doing a lot better, AB average,
Wonderful.
and I would have never gotten that in my old high school, just because I talk more than I work, which doesn't really work out well, and let's face the facts, I hate doing homework at home. So I wouldn't do it at home and didn't get anything done.
Okay. So I doubt you still talk more than you work, but it kind of works together.
Oh, with the project base, it's easier to work on it at home because I actually like what I'm doing. So I
Okay.
think I talk more than I work now, but I get everything I need to. I finish it.
And you're probably explaining some of your project, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Okay. And tell us who you are and how you ended up at the school. Thank you.
I'm Alli Combs, and I started out at Greenway up until 8th grade, stayed there, just kind of didn't like it, went over to Nashwauk my freshman year, didn't like it, went back to Greenway for half of my 10th grade year, and then I had a friend that went to Warba, and like, in Greenway it's so big, and in Nashwauk, they're pretty big schools compared to Warba, and I have like social anxiety, so I get really nervous around people and crowding in halls and stuff, and like, I was a good student, I got A's and B's, but I didn't like the teachers, I didn't get along with a lot of the people. So I had a friend that was just kind of like, hey, come visit Warba. And I was like, all right, I'll come visit, you know, I don't have school today. Went over there and I just loved it. I loved all the people, everyone was so nice to me. And Dave was the director at the time, and he was just like, hey, come here, come tomorrow. And I was like, all right. So I came, and now it was a year in the beginning of January that I started. So, and then Nick's the new director, and like Nick and Dave, I feel really close to Nick and Dave, and my advisor Matt is really nice, and he helps me with a lot, and like I am smart, and I am in post-secondary, so I go to college, but I need a lot of one-on-one attention. Like I can do it, I can learn it, but if I need help, it's like I need you and just me and help.
Okay, and so you're also doing post-secondary. So in other words, your school is just like school as we know it, as far as meeting all the standards of the state and graduation requirements and everything, except the charter school. And how is that exactly different? You've talked about projects, you've talked about advisors, and you've talked about small, but is there anything else that separates a charter school as far as your funding or anything like that from the public school as we know it?
As a public charter school, we still receive public funds, just like
Okay.
any traditional school would.
So nobody is paying to it?
No,
Okay.
it's tuition free, and the way that the charter schools differ is when the law was passed in '91 in the state of Minnesota, constituents wanted more say over what their schools should look like, and that was parents and community members and teachers that taught at schools thought that if taxes were going to public education, they should have more say over what schools look like and how the curriculum is being taught. And when charter schools came to be, it was made where they would be their own independent school districts, and they would have their own independent board, and that school board would be made up of parents and teachers and direct community members in that community, so they would have more say over what that can look like. Yes, elected by the families involved in the school, so they would have more say over where that community needs and what they saw as different. So there are charter schools all over the state, and they all look a little different based on what that community saw as a need that needed to be filled. And our school, it has that small feel, but also where we really focus is that we realize that every single one of our students is a different individual. And they all have their own personalized plan that ideally builds on their strengths. And being a strength-based educational institution, we focus on their strengths to address areas of concern and to make sure that they are covering everything that the state that the state would like. Doing that through our hands-on projects and handing them the keys to over, and then working with wonderful advisors who recognize their strengths and recognize their areas of interest, and going about the education in that way.
Help pull you out. Now you talk a lot about projects. Could you tell some of the projects, or what you mentioned your Freakonomics right now, but other projects that you said individual projects that you have going?
I just started a zombie project yesterday.
Okay.
I am a big fan of horror and gore, but I won't get much into that since we're on TV, but it's gotten really good. I love doing projects. I can drag them out sometimes, just ask Suzanne, but I love doing them, and I love getting into the stuff that I want to know about rather than what's required, basically. I mean, we get done what's required, but in a way that we want to learn about it, how we want to learn about it.
Okay, so you're incorporating a lot of different kinds of learning while you're learning about zombies?
Yes.
Okay.
We get different credits for learning, like, the science of, like, how a zombie would be created, or the history facts of it, like how long the theory of zombies has been around, or, like, I'm also going to do a survey about if people think the zombie apocalypse could actually happen or if it won't. So I can't say what credit you would get from that.
If you're going, Kate just submitted this proposal to me yesterday, so I just read through it, and she wants to get some art elective because she is going to actually make someone over as a zombie with the kinds of makeup. Some of the science that people have built into a project that you think zombies, how can that be Minnesota certified? But they will look into the actual makeup that is used to create zombies to look like zombies in the movies, the kinds of dye, the kinds of science of creating those kinds of pigments. Kate also has done some research with the historical bases of if it's a myth, and some people think it's not a myth, and this whole idea where listeners might think, well, of course there aren't zombies, but Kate is going to do an assessment of our school, which is gathering sociological data, learning how to process the data via a means she's interested in. Do people believe in zombies, or do they think it's a bunch of nonsense? So in terms of the kind of multidisciplinary focus, she may get some math credit, she may get a little science credit, she may get some geography credit, depending on how she angles this. But certainly, once she's got all the art credit that she could get, what my role would be to say, Kate, this is a great project, but it needs to have really, you don't need any more art credit. So you're going to have to show me what else you can dig through in this to have your learning be along the lines of what you still need to be learning. So when Kate says Suzanne gives a lot of advice, it's because Kate loves doing art, and I'm always trying to pull her. She likes literature too. She likes to write, and she's a very good poet, actually. But
so you could go off on a zombie angle from poetry or
that's
writing
right.
or drama.
That's right.
Wonderful.
Yep.
When you finish, maybe you'll have to return with a zombie project to share with us.
I could very well do that.
Okay. Well, you know, I'm very interested too. Right before you came, we hung this up in the back, and this is just a beautiful quilt. Could someone speak to what this is about? Who had anything to do with this?
I have one of the squares up there. It's the purple one, the blank purple one with the two cuddling cats on there. It stands for Japanese anime characters because I am a huge fan of anime, like the whole concept of it. And the one Japanese word up there is love, and then the J stands for Japan, of course. And I used 4 different materials in making that quilt square, And that was one of the basic requirements of making our quilt squares, is we had to use 4 different types of material and to get credit for the whole project itself. And that's the way I chose to do mine. But you can see the basic idea that other people did was just do the 4 squares of different materials and different colors.
And was this your class, your advisee
Yes.
group, and kind of a way to bring you all together to work on a project together?
Yes, this is what was the product of what's known as an advisory project. Each class does, I think, about 2 or 3 of them a year, basically. And this one came from last year. We just finished the quilt this year, though. And I have to say, I love it. It's beautiful. The colors are just perfect.
Great. And then what do you do with the quilts when you're done?
This one is hanging in the back of our advisory now for just pleasant sight.
Okay. Beautiful.
And Patty, this was an advisory-led project called Wild Wacky World. I looked at my students and saw a lot of them still needed geography and world history. So I designed an advisory-led project that involved them each choosing a country that they were going to become an expert at. And they had to find out something about the food. They all cooked a food from their country. They made maps. They found out history. They found out other cultural, interesting cultural features of their country. And they all presented their country to us. One of the other parts of this project was they had to design a trip to their country. So another person that works in the school has done a lot of international travel, as I have, and we steered the kids to websites where they could find out how much a plane ticket would cost to go there and what are some of the main sites they would want to see. So they actually planned out what would be a real trip, and then they each had an artistic component where every student in the class learned how to sew. We have a sewing machine in our advisory. We just bought one, and it's in our little back room, so that's all set up for sewing. And I didn't really, I've never done this with a group of kids, but they just loved it. And
I bet you learned a lot.
Yeah,
Even though
yeah,
you
I learned a
traveled
lot.
the world.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. So they each got to make a square, and then we assembled it, and one of my students sewed this all together. They each sewed their own, and each one represents a different country.
Wonderful. So it just seems like so many things. Now, I'm wondering, I can already tell that school spirit is probably really high because you feel like a family and you work together. Do you have music and sports and some of those things the other schools have?
Well, we do have like a band teacher, and so they have band on Tuesdays and Thursdays in the morning, and then like for like our presentation nights, just like we have kids that'll go down during rec time and practice singing, so they can sing and play and do like different things during presentation night.
Tell me presentation night.
It's at the end of our block usually, and it's where all the parents and family and everyone can just come and they get to like see what you do in your advisory and like the work you've done throughout the block, and you get to all eat dinner together and then put on like little shows, like the band will play or people will sing. And this one, my advisory is leading it in Matt's room, so we're gonna have like a variety show go on. So just a bunch of little fun stuff.
Great. So you organize it all and then you kind of entertain, and people in the community learn from what you're doing and have a good night together. Okay, wonderful. Well, finally, how about transportation? It sounds like you're located in Warba, and it sounds like you're coming from all different areas of the Northwest. Do you have buses, or how do you?
We have transportation to all of our students. Right now we have students from 7 different school districts that come to Northern Lights Community School. We have some students that come from Hibbing, from Tower, from Reamer, from Grand Rapids, Deer River, and all that different area. Maybe each of you want to speak to where you live and how you get to school each day.
Well, I live in Pengilly, and it's between Rapids and Hibbing, so it's about 20 minutes from Morba.
So do I. Okay.
And I'm 17, so I have my license, so I can drive to school.
Okay.
But there is a bus that comes and stops at the post office by my house. So if I don't have a ride, I can always ride the bus that comes to Pengilly too.
Great. And Peter, I never got your last name.
Lokken.
Okay, and how do you get there?
I live in Goodland. I'm 16, so I just drive to the bus stop, which is like a couple miles away from my house. Then just get on the bus and go to school and get dropped off in my car.
Okay. I didn't get your last name either.
I'm Kate Quilala,
Okay.
and I live in Calumet, which is kind of like in the middle of everything. Not really a big town at all. And I get picked up at our local post office at 7:17 in the morning by our local bus.
Okay. Wonderful. You know, I'm really sorry, but we're running out of time, and this is so fascinating. I just hope you will agree to come back maybe later in the year after you have some projects done and bring something like that. But as a closure, if you could just say one more thing that's so special about your school that you feel, having gone to many different schools, all of you. And why don't we start with you?
I just have to say I love my school because it's welcoming and everybody accepts you as who you are and doesn't try to change you. They like you for who you are.
That's a gift, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like the school because we can pick what we learn. Like, I'm into computers and I can learn coding and get credit for that, and actually do advanced computer work and get credit for that.
Well, excellent.
I just love the school because we're all like a family. Like everyone accepts everyone, like Kate said, and you can't. It's like you get in a fight with your brother and sister if you're mad at someone, but within the week you're done, you're happy, and you're all back to normal. Everyone gets along and never fighting or anything. It's really welcoming, like Kate said.
Wonderful. Okay, thank you. Suzanne.
Well, I like the open-ended creative part of it, where if I dream up an idea, and my kids usually are interested, they'll kind of come along with me, and we're taking a trip. We're taking an extended road trip again this year. In the middle of May, we'll be gone for 4 days and 3 nights camping and studying the North Shore and the Ojibwa culture.
You took a trip today.
We took a trip today. We took a trip last year too. Went down into Iowa and saw where the Amish live, and I couldn't do that in many schools. So
Wonderful.
I like the possibilities.
Okay, and Nick.
I've in all my years in education, I've never met a student that's the same as anybody else. And I like to be able to go to work every day and be able to celebrate the differences between all of our students and how much they can teach each other, and that they're all on different paths in life, and then we're just there to celebrate it. We're there to aid them in that, to help them all reach their full potential. And it's just really neat to be able to say that every one of our students has their own path, and we're working on that with them.
Well, this has been just very wonderful for me to learn about, because I've been a teacher and a guidance counselor for 34 years, and before that I was a student just like all of you. And this has just been very interesting and delightful and a great option for our area. And so we'll get the phone number and scroll it down the bottom. And anybody who's listening who wants to know more about Northern Lights Community School, there's a great webpage that you have, and you can contact any of these people, and you can call the phone number that will be on the bottom of the screen. So we thank everybody for tuning in today, and we'll look forward to seeing you again soon.